Hey everybody, welcome back to Sniper Gains. On this channel, we mainly focus on trading futures using prop firms such as Topstep. Now, I want to kind of give you an overview of my current journey as a trader. I want to review how I did last month, and we're going to start to focus on the trades that I'm starting to take this month. So we're going to go to TradeZella. This is how I record all of my trades. I'll be logging in. Okay. So last month I did pretty well. I walked out with $6,200 in profit. Now you might be wondering, how did I get to this point? It's because I've been using a strategy known as candle range theory. So we're going to review what we did last month, and then we're going to talk about the loss that I took today. So hopefully we can be able to fix that. Now I'm going to go to the performance stats. And now with each one, I have two express funded accounts. So my average is like about 48% win rate, profit factor of 2.6. So it is a profitable strategy. If you take a look at last month, on this account, it was $3,101.33. And then on the second account, it's the same because I've been copy trading. Now, today I did take a trade, or technically yesterday I took a trade on CL that had a setup that would look like a very clean CRT setup. However, this is what happened. I went to trading. I saw the setup, and if you're not familiar with my style of trading, when it comes to the CRT, I try to divide it into like 3 blocks. Block A, this is known as the accumulation hour. What I'm waiting for is to see a sweep, a formation of a bullish fair value gap if I'm going to go long. For it to tap, I would enter immediately in order to hit the target. In this sequence, it tapped, dropped me out, then hit the target. So it's very frustrating when that happens, but it's part of the CRT method. Now, one key thing I want to say is I will at some point in time create a video that will clearly explain step by step how I trade the CRT the Sniper Gains way. So that way you can kind of understand what's going on here. Why do I have this box? Why do I have these vertical lines? If you're looking at it for right now, it might seem like randomness, but when I create that video, you'll start to see the theory of AMD being used in candle range theory setups like this. So yeah, but for right now, my main focus is to recover this amount. Now, if you're new to this channel, there are a few rules that I go by. Rule number 1, no more than 3 trades in a day. Rule number 2, always make sure you follow your risk management. Now, for my risk management, it's unique. I basically do it in a way where from $0 to $3,999, I cannot risk no more than $300 per day. When I surpass that at 4,000 plus, it goes to 10%. I can't risk no more than 10% of my current profit balance. But the way I personally do it is I take a next step further, is because I can only take 3 trades in a day, I split it into thirds. This helps to make sure that when I take a hit like this, it is much easier for me to recover with one winning trade, because my average winning trade typically hovers around 2 to 3 times. So that helps a lot, especially when your win rate is not as high. That having a very good risk reward keeps me profitable long term. Now, I'm going to try to see if there's going to be a setup right now that I can take advantage of. So let's dive into TradingView and see what we're working with today. Right now, I'm seeing a pretty good setup on NQ. I just want to see if it will form a fair value gap that I can take advantage of. So this is one that I'm really eyeing. Definitely wanting to try to get a trade before the red folder news event. So there's going to be a red folder news event I'm in Central Time, guys. So in your time, it's going to be 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I live in Texas, so for me, it's 9. But on the chart, we're going to look at it as 10. So when I'm looking at this, my focus is to see if I can catch an entry around here to take it up here. So the reason why I'm looking for a bullish CRT is because of a few things. One way I judge directional bias is this 50 EMA on the 1 hour. Any 1 hour candle above the 50 EMA, in my opinion, has a bullish directional bias. Any 1 hour candle below the 50 EMA has a bearish directional bias. The second thing I look at is these dots right here. They're known as parabolic SAR. Think of these dots as momentum indicators that can help me to gauge how strong the bullish or bearish momentum is. The further away it is from the candle, the more likely the momentum will keep going on. However, as soon as the dots get very close to the candle, they tend to flip. So I'm just trying to find a really nice example that's very clean. Okay, let's see. NASDAQ does not give very clean setups sometimes. But basically, something like this. You see how the dots above would represent bearish pressure? But because it hit the dot or got very close to the dot, it flipped bullish. So the idea or the name of the game is I want to make sure there's bullish alignment. So if it's a bullish setup, bullish directional bias, meaning the 1 hour candle is above the 50 EMA, and bullish momentum, meaning that the SAR dots are below those 1 hour candles. So I'm just going to be paying attention to see if we can get a clean setup, and hopefully we can be able to recover the loss that we took this morning at a cost of $129.12. Okay, here we go. I'm going to put this on mute so that way I can kind of check on the stream, make sure everything's good. And once it's good, we can continue. Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. It should be good now. Okay, so it appears that everything is good. I'm looking at my settings, the sound is good. So we should be fine. Okay, back to the charts. Now, as we're looking at this, I'm trying to see if this setup will give us a 5-minute bullish fair value gap. Right now, it is basically 827. So I'm just eyeing to see if it will create a bullish fair value gap. So if it does, we'll be able to use that fair value gap to try to push price up. And obviously, I've set a timer on my end to make sure that I try to close the position at least 10 minutes before 9 o'clock, because that's when it'll get very volatile. So my main focus is to see if NQ is going to give me a bullish 5-minute fair value gap that I can use in order to enter and push towards the target. So we'll see what happens. Okay, let me cancel that. Let me cancel that and that. All right, while we wait, I'm just going to pull up MNQ. And the reason why I'm using MNQ is my balance, starting off before this happened would have been, let me pull up the trusty calculator here. So $541.23 plus 129.12. I started off with a balance of $4,670.35. So for me, it means that the maximum that I can lose today cannot be more than $400. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to split that 400 divided by 3 to get myself 3 opportunities, and that's about $133. So in this case, even though it was a loss, it's within the risk that I wanted to do per trade for the day. So my goal is now to take a look and see if there is a setup, because I can't force these setups. I just have to wait and see if they're there. If it is, great. If it's not, then it's most likely going to have to end the day with a loss of 129.12. So hopefully NQ will come through and give me a nice fair value gap that I can enter on to try to recover. But again, I can't force my trades. I just have to go with the flow and, not gamble or tilt. Because if you start tilting, that's when you start messing up. So that's why I'm very particular about, using good risk management to protect myself from myself. So let's see. Now, the thing about this, which is unfortunate, is NQ is pumping pretty hard. And I don't know if it will give me the 5-minute fair value gap before it hits the target. So in a bullish CRT model, it would sweep the buy stops here in order to push price to the target, which would be the opposing liquidity, which is going to rest above the box, or basically right over here. So with the way it's moving, it might even form that fair value gap, but by the time it gets there, I might not have a chance to take advantage of it. It's unfortunate, but if it does, that would suck. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it'll give us an entry, but if not, we may have to look at some other tickers and see what we can do. I'm looking to see if ES will give me a fair value gap because it tends to follow NQ's price action very similarly. So I'm also looking at NQ just to see if there's, at ES just to see if there's a fair value gap that I could use. But if there isn't one, then we can't really force the issue. So we'll see what happens. Now you may be wondering, what I'm doing right now. I'm anticipating that, let's see, that this right here will eventually form into a bullish fair value gap, but we'll see what happens. I'm just kind of like prepping. But the way price is moving, it's moving with a lot of force. It'll most likely hit the target, which would kind of suck, but we'll see what happens. All right, it seems like it's going to hit the target before retracing back. So I'm going to have to look for another setup just because it's just moving way too strong. So right now you'll start to see that the third candle right here is leaving a large distance. So that is forming that bullish fair value gap. The only small problem is it's starting to form the bullish fair value gap when it's so close to the end target that it would make sense. That it won't make sense for me to enter on that bullish fair value gap. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm just going to have to wait and see if I can find another setup, hopefully before 10 o'clock. So we'll see what happens next. Now, on the off chance if this candle does form a bullish fair value gap and starts to do a deep retrace, I've set my entry, I would set my entry right here to target pushing up. And the reason why I would try to use a late entry instead of entering on the fair value gap is I've noticed over time that even when it enters this fair value gap, price tends to go on a deep drawdown, but then eventually holds and pushes up without taking out the swing low during the manipulation hour, which is this one right here. Now, just say hypothetically, if it were to work out, so this is 1575. So 1575 times 2, because that's the multiplier on M and Q, is 31.5. I'm willing to risk around 130. So I'll say maybe like 130 divided by 31.5 is about 4 contracts in. So now it's 4 contracts in. I'll do 31.5 times 4. That's 126. Plus, I have to put the cost of each contract, which should be 75 cents. So let me pull that up real quick. 75 cents if you're using Topstep X. So let me pull that. Make sure I know my numbers before I start to look to enter into the trade. I'm going to go here. Then I'm going to go to Control F, M and Q, 74 cents. Okay, so 74 cents times 4, $2.96. So that would be considered a good trade if it comes back and leaves the fair value gap. So please don't take out that fair value gap. Please, 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 please. Hold that gap. So if that's the case, I would set my limit buy to 4 contracts right here with the hope and the anticipation that that fair value gap will hold. So we have 1 more minute to prove that it will hold. And if it does hold, then it's worth taking a shot at this. So if I do my thing and I run my numbers, it held. Good. I can now move it here. Now, traditionally, I would move it here. That's what I'm supposed to do. But that would only get me a 1R trade. But for me, I'm going to put it at 2 because I try to make sure that all my setups are 2R. I know based on trading the strategy is that when price comes in, it will literally come in sometimes, hold, and then push up. But a majority of the time, it'll go through that fair value gap. But this fair value gap will start to act like a rubber band and hold price from taking out the swing low right here. So if I know it's going to have a deep drawdown anyway, I might as well catch it at a 2R with the hope that it will hold and hit this target right here. So that's the goal. And if I were to enter the trade and if it were to hold it in a way where it does not take out the swing low, then we could get a 2R on this play. And the 2R would be 126 times 2 at 252. So we'll see if it will even take us in or if it already hit the target, but we already have it set just in case. Now, since I took a hit of 129.12, I need to know how much that is going to cost me here. So 129.12 is what I took a hit on. And I know that the price for this is 296. Okay. I'm just trying to think if there's a way where I could raise my stop loss after it hits the target to try to see if we can extend it even further. But by the way it's moving, I think it will already hit the target anyway. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, it looks like it's about to hit the target. And it's about to hit the target. And if it hits the target, that means we have no entry and we'll be forced to close this position or this order, this limit order. So it seems like it's struggling right over here to push this barrier. So that can be both good and bad. It could be a good thing because it might give us a retrace down, but we'll see. I think it'll still muscle through and hit this box right here. And if it does, we have to switch to a different setup or a different, not a different setup, but a different time block. And I'll explain why. Just eyeing to see. So there's obviously a lot of selling pressure right over here, but we'll see if that selling pressure is strong enough to push price down to fill this gap, or if the bullish volume coming in is going to be strong enough to overpower it. So this is just a battle between the buyers and the sellers. We're just trying to see in real time who's going to win. I'm personally betting that the buyers are going to win this round, but we'll see. Okay. So we're starting to see a little buying, or was a little selling pressure, but it seems like the buyers are coming in and recovering. But we'll see. Okay. All right. Okay, it seems like we're just a few ticks away from hitting the goal. So I'm most likely going to have to start looking for another setup, not as a different trading strategy, but like another CRT opportunity. because it's just getting way too close to the target. It hasn't hit it yet, but it's very close. So right now we're trying to see if it will hit the target. So that way we can cancel this setup and look for another setup using a different accumulation hour. So we'll have to see. Okay, while this one is cooking, I'm going to take a look at some other tickers just to see if there's better opportunities. Take a look at gold. Let's see what gold looks like. Now, gold does catch my interest a little bit because number one, this candle is above the 50 MA on the 1 hour time frame. This candle also has the parabolic SARS underneath it. So it has bullish momentum and bullish directional bias. Now, the only thing about this candle is this is the 8 o'clock candle. So let's just say I use this as the accumulation hour. So the way I would do it is I would put two vertical lines. If, let's just say in about 7 minutes, the next hour sweeps this bottom, I'll be looking for a bullish fair value gap. Now, the problem that I will be running into is I would definitely need to wait for this 1 hour to complete because the next hour over is the red folder news event. So the smart play with this one is if I can be able to see a bullish fair value gap, to notate it, but not to enter until the next hour starts, because I need to see how the market is going to react to the ISM news report, right? So I'm going to keep a very strong eye on gold, and also at the same time, a strong eye on usually silver, but I'll keep a strong eye on gold just to see, because the other two are not looking as good, to be honest with you. But gold has a possibility to have a clean setup that I could take advantage of. So I'll keep a strong eye on gold to see. But right now, my main focus is on MNQ to see what it will do. Okay, so let's see. Is MNQ going to hit the target, or does it want to reverse a little bit before hitting the target? That's the $1 million question right now, because you see these wicks. These wicks typically represent a lot of selling pressure, but it seems like it's slowly muscling through it. So just trying to see if it will have enough strength to just hit it and then drop, or drop, enter, and then go up. So we'll see. All right, it's definitely struggling, but I think it will make it to the finish line. Okay, there it is. So this is important, right? This hour is basically the 7 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock Eastern time, and then 9 to 10, right? So what the original game plan was for it to push down, take out the buy stops that were accumulated during the 7 a.m. hour, create a bullish fair value gap in order to enter and push up. The problem is it did create a bullish fair value gap, but it already was so close to the target, it wouldn't make sense for me to take the trade. Now, in this instance, what will happen is I'm going to now move the new accumulation hour from 7 to this one being 8 o'clock. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to remove the drawings. We're going to switch it to the 1 hour. And we're going to take a look at it. So still above the 50 EMA. Still about having the bullish star dots underneath it. So this is still a valid new hour we can work with. So we're going to draw a new box again. And then we're going to draw our two vertical lines. So these two vertical lines represent the next hour, which is what I usually define as the manipulation hour. So this is accumulation. What I'm drawing right now would be manipulation. And then if it forms a bullish fair value gap, if it's a valid entry, would then consider the next few hours distribution. So here's the thing. Let's just say as this is forming and this hour sweeps the top, then there's no trade. We would have to move the new accumulation hour to that new one. Because if we're bullish, we have to take out the buy stops first before we take out the sell stops. Well, we have to take out the sell stops first before we take out the buy stops at the top. So this right here is an example of a successful one. I never really use currencies because they never really do a good job in forming the CRT. Whenever I'm trading them, they're always kind of going against me. But this is an example of it completing a clean CRT setup. So let me show you. When you draw here, then you put in the vertical lines. I'm assuming there should be a bullish or bearish fair value gap on this hour. So this is 2 a.m. 3 to 4 would be the manipulation, and then anything after would be distribution hours. So now that we've marked it out, I'm going to use the replay tool to kind of show you the theory. I know this is on replay mode, but that's the only one I can try to see if I could find one. Oh man, it didn't form that bearish fair value gap. All right, whatever. Okay, no problem, no problem. We're going to keep checking. We're going to keep hunting for other setups. I'm going to take a look and see if there's any possibility for a good setup. So this is going to be an important hour for me to keep in mind. Now this is the new hour, which is 9. Now the reason why this is an important hour is in about 1 hour time, in 1 hour's time, we are going to have the red folder news event, right? So what's going to happen is I'm just going to be eyeing this 1 hour candle. It'll take about an hour. Wait for that news to see if it will give us an entry to push up. So essentially, this would almost be like trading like a silver bullet model from 10 to 11. But before I can do that, I have to wait for this entire hour to complete, then see if it will form a bullish fair value gap based on the news, And then if once the news has been mentioned, hopefully it's not too volatile where it just takes out the buy stops here, but rather takes out the sell stops, gives us a nice entry, and then we can enter and go. But, we don't really know. This is why we have to wait and see. So this is the part of the CRT setup that kind of sucks a little bit because I have to wait for that 1 hour to complete. So that way I truly know the direction. Will it take out the high or will it take out the low after the news has been released? So this is the part where it kind of sucks, kind of boring, but we'll just have to wait it out. And if it gives us a setup to enter, then we'll be able to enter. But at this time, the smart move is for me to wait until 10. Oh yeah, it'd be 10 o'clock. So just have to wait it out, and based on that, we'll see what happens next. Okay, so this is going to be an important setup on gold. Yes, on gold, because of this candle right here. So this is going to be the 9 a.m. candle, right? Now we know in about maybe close to 45 minutes, we're going to get that red folder news event. So my hope is that this candle will at least bare minimum, not close below this 50 EMA, right? I ideally wanted to not even touch this 50 EMA. But if it does, it can get a little tricky. But if it can stay up while maintaining these star dots, that will be good. However, with going to the next hour, that 10 o'clock hour from 10 to 11, I just need to see the reaction that people will have based on that red folder news event. So if we go to Forex Factory right now, you will see that there is an ISM, a manufacturing PMI. So we click on this. Why traders care. It's a leading indicator of economic health. Business react quickly to market conditions, and their purchasing managers hold perhaps the most current and relevant insight into the company's view of the economy. So basically, if it's bad news, it's gonna really rock the market. And I don't want to be having to enter without me at least getting a chance to see the reaction. Based on that reaction, I'll know whether to enter or not to enter at all. But we have to wait. This is one of those situations where I absolutely need to practice a little self-control and just wait to see what happens. So yeah, we're going to be sitting on our hands until that news event happens. In the meantime, I'm just marking out the hourly candles and seeing how they will look like. So this one is the 9. So let's mark that out. And we'll just sit here, chillax. So if you have any questions, just let me know. I'll be glad to answer them. And yeah, we're just going to have to wait for about 47 minutes. Okay, so we're close to market open, the New York market open in about 9 minutes. So now we're just waiting to see what it does. And yeah, I want to see if people are going to be optimistic or fearful about this news report. So we're going to go to cnbc.com. I'm going to take a look and see. So here says the S&P 500 futures rise to start November trading. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Wall Street is coming off a winning session. Wall Street is coming off a winning session that added to the benchmark's October gains. The S&P 500 and Dow Industrials climbed 2.3 and 2.5 respectively for the month. Okay, so that looks good. But it all depends on this news, because this could be all good news and then they say something bad and people just start to dump their stocks. So we never really know. We have to actually wait. Ooh, one-time meme stock Beyond Meat falls 8% after delaying financial results due to impairment charge. Okay, let's see. Let's see. If we're gonna catch a trade today, that will be nice. Okay, so NQ is definitely really going strong, that's for sure. I just wish it had went into that fair value gap and would have been pushing up. But that's just part of the game, right? We have to see what happens. Okay, so right now, just to pass time, I'm looking at NQ, doing a little back testing on what is known as the silver bullet model. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. When it comes to doing this silver bullet model, I've seen people do it in so many different ways, and I'm just trying to find a method that can work for me so that way I can make money consistently from it. So I'm just kind of trying different things. I don't have an official thing on it yet. It's just something I'm doing just to kind of just to see, if there are an easier, more efficient way to trade this silver bullet model without it being so complicated all the time. So that's what I'm basically doing. If I find something that makes sense, I may create it into a strategy. But for right now, I'm just exploring while I'm waiting to see what happens to the market in about 2 minutes during the New York Open and 30 minutes after the news release. So I'm just basically twiddling my thumbs, as they say. Let's see. Okay, so the market has officially started. Let's go and see what's going on. I'm going to remove these other drawings. Now let's see what's going on. Okay, so with the market coming in, obviously there's a lot of bullish momentum pushing in to NQ. So with that bullish momentum pushing into NQ, that's good, but it doesn't negate the fact that we do have a red folder news event in about 30 minutes. So we still need to sit on our hands and see what it ultimately decides to do. So we'll just take a look at this. You'll see there's a lot of bullish volume going into it. And I'm also now looking at gold. And I see that gold is taking a hit. So let's see what happens on that one. And it's already touching this, which is not good. I don't like that sequence. That sucks. Let's see, silver. Still touching that 50 EMA. I don't like that either, because now that gets kind of difficult. Copper. It looks like copper is trying to do a bearish reversal. That's basically what it did, but it gave the bullish SAR dot. So whenever we have this kind of weird conflict, I typically have to sit on my hands and see what the next step will be, because like this one is a very kind of a confusing setup here, because it looks bearish because it's below the 50 EMA, but the parabolic SAR dots are here. That really is not good, because it kind of throws it off whenever you're trading the CRT, whenever you have these two conflicting indicators. Usually I want to make sure that they're in alignment with each other. So this would have been a tough trade to take, because honestly, it looked like one sec. Like I was saying, this one would have been a tough trade to take, because it honestly looks like it's supposed to go bullish. But in this case, it's been kind of ranging around. So yeah, this is a tough one. Like, let's say, for example, with this one, right? If I drew the vertical lines, the 7 o'clock being the accumulation hour, 8 to 9 being the manipulation hour, and then 10 onwards being distribution hours, it would have been tough. But this would have technically worked if the SAR dots were on top, because if they were on top, I would have taken a chance, because that would have been a valid A+ setup. But the idea is, just so that way you can see, the orders, specifically the shorting orders that were accumulated at the top of this candle, were taken out by this wick right here. It formed this bearish fair value gap. So that whenever it does that and it closes inside of the box, then I can enter down. So with this one, unfortunately, it's kind of confusing, because gold was pumping, but copper was not following along. It was going the opposite way. So like I said, that's a tough trade to even take. But it would have been a valid one if the SAR dots were on top. If they were on top, I could have taken a chance on that. But because they were not, it wouldn't have worked out. Because I'm trying to align myself with the overall direction of gold, so that way I'm not caught in a weird direction if I choose silver or copper. I just wanted it to flow with gold, because gold is what I like to call the king of the metals. So I just have to wait and see when they're in sync with gold. Like if it's in sync with gold, I like those kind of trades. But this one would have been an A+ setup if it wasn't those for the SAR dots being on the opposite side instead of being on the top. It is what it is. Now you'll notice that the MNQ hourly candle is still getting a lot of selling pressure. Now what I'm hoping is, even if it's getting a lot of selling pressure, that it does not have to touch the 50 EMA. Because if it touches the 50 EMA, then it's going to take a long time, maybe 1 or 2 hours before I can find another valid setup. So ideally, at least bare minimum, hopefully, this candle right here does not touch this 50 EMA right here. If it touches, I may have to look for another accumulation hour to work with. Okay, right now, if you're taking a look at NQ, this 9 a.m. candle is really getting close to taking out this 50 EMA. My hope is within the next 20 minutes, it can at least stop just above that 50 EMA and not have to touch it. Because if it touches it, then there's a good chance it'll just blow through it. And I really don't want to have to do that. So I'm just waiting to see if it'll hold. I'm hoping it will. It's just 20 more minutes of holding. 20 more minutes, and then we'll see what that news event is going to be like. That's where the real issue really begins, is based on that news event. So just want to wait it out, wait and see. Hopefully the news event will sweep the sell stops, but then form a 5-minute fair value gap that I can enter on to push price up. Now, obviously, if it gives me one, I'm going to take it. It might be a little bit aggressive, but the bet is that if it does a quick sweep, there's a good chance it will really muscle through and push up. And if that happens, I want to be taking advantage of that momentum. But if the news is very bearish and bad, then there might not be a play, and I may have to close the day at a loss of $129.12. So hopefully it won't have to be that way. But again, with this setup, I can't force my will. I just have to flow with the market, flow with what is being presented to me, and just take the best shots that I can. But I will admit that HG trade is kind of pisses me off a little bit, because I would have loved to be in part of this sequence right here. But these two dots are very conflicting. If it were not there, then it would have been easier for me to take that trade, because I would justify it as at least it's an A+ setup, with this being the accumulation hour, manipulation, enter, distribution downward. But because it didn't give me that, I couldn't take the trade. So it kind of sucks. I wish I could have taken it over here, but there was no entry. So it's kind of like frustrating when that happens, but I just have to wait and see. I think there's a lot of fear in the market right now because of the way it's dropping so hard. There's a good chance that whatever that news might be bad, but you never know until the news is officially released in about less than 20 minutes. So I know I've been singing about waiting for this news, but literally that's the main reason why I'm here, to see if they will open up an opportunity for me to use my strategy, or if it will just simply say there's no entry today. That's why I'm waiting. Hopefully this candle right here holds and doesn't have to go blow through this 50 EMA before the manipulation hour begins, at least bare minimum, because my accumulation hour needs to be above that 50 EMA. So I'm just going to have to wait and see if it will hold. Okay, we're down to 15 minutes, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so with 10 minutes towards that news event, really want to pay attention to NQ. I'll also pay attention to GC and C, but GC is going to be a hard one to capitalize on just because of the huge long wick that came in on this candle right here. So they had the 8 a.m. candle. At some point, it swept the 8 a.m. And then after sweeping, now it's starting to push up pretty hard. Now, the thing about this is obviously it made it pretty hard for us, the trader, to be able to enter into that sequence because the fair value gap was formed, but there was not enough time for it to retrace back and then push up. The problem is the only way I could have entered this is if I would have gone on the 1 minute, and the 1 minute chart, it tends to be very dicey in terms of taking these kind of trades. So I personally don't feel comfortable doing a sweep of this kind on the 1 minute. I usually like using the 5 minute fair value gap because it tends to be a lot easier for me. So that's why I couldn't take this trade right here. But either way, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, we're going to have to see if there's going to be an opportunity or not. Okay, we have about 7 more minutes to see the final decision on that red folder news. So based on that, I'm hoping that the red folder news would sweep here, would find a fair value gap entry to push up to take out the buy stops on the top of this hourly candle. That's the goal. However, the reason why we have to wait is when news comes in, it can be so volatile that it can just take both sides or just take one side that you did not anticipate. So it kind of puts you in a weird zone. So with that being said, it is better for me to just sit on my hands, wait for literally 6 more minutes to see the final result. Okay, we got 4 more minutes, and then now we'll be able to see the result of that news event. So while this is cooking, I'm going to look at the graph on MNQ. Now, I'm hoping it will just sweep the bottom, but give me like an opportunity to enter on a 5-minute bullish fair value gap. I'm anticipating it will sweep the bottom first just because of how close we are to it. And if that's the case, hopefully the news is not so explosive that there is no entry to even take advantage of. So we'll have to see in about 2 minutes. Okay, we have 1 more minute to go. And now it's going to get real dicey. Let's see which one it takes out. Okay, we're about to hit 9 o'clock. Let's see. Okay, so it's going to go. All right, now it's time to do its thing. Let's go to the 5-minute. So now it's going to get real intense, okay? So what I'm hoping for is it'll take out the sweep, the bottom, form a 5-minute fair value gap that I can enter on. So I'm going to have to work a little bit faster than I usually like to, but I'm on MNQ. I need to kind of see roughly what we're working with. So 48.25 is just a random space that I'm using at the moment, but I'm mainly focused on looking at the bar. So this is not bad. I was hoping that it's not too crazy, but it is somewhat volatile. So it should give us an opportunity, hopefully, to enter on a bullish 5-minute fair value gap. And the idea is we would target the top right over here. Now, with that being said, I have to run some numbers, okay? So I can only risk about $400 in a day. So 129.12 is how much I lost today. So we can only risk a maximum of $270.88. So put that there, 270.88. Okay, 270.88. We lost that trade over there of 129.12, which was CL. So trade 2 is most likely going to be NQ, and my remaining balance is 280. Yeah, $280 or $270.88. Sorry about that. Okay. So that is an important number. So the idea is I would be looking for a long entry on NQ if it presents a 5-minute bullish fair value gap. Now, because I'm using MNQ instead of NQ, the multiplier is ×2. So we're going to be using this as a way to gauge our stop loss. So let's just say if our stop loss is 30 points or 30.75 points, you times by 2 to know how much it would be for one contract. Now, based on that risk, I'll know how much I need to risk for 270. So if I have $270, divide that by the 2, 135.44. So ideally, I need a setup that is $135 in total, including fees and commission. Okay. I already know that it's 74 cents per micro contract. Okay. So this is an important number for me to know as I'm going to be looking to see if there will be a bullish setup for me. Now, typically with something like this, I'm going to have to be a little bit more aggressive if it opens up a 5-minute bullish fair value gap. I ideally would have liked it to close by 55, because the 55-minute represents when the manipulation hour has ended. However, I know that NQ, especially with a news like this, can shoot up pretty hard. So I have to be aware of that and just to kind of be more aggressive on my entry. But I'm hoping it will be a decent entry if one presents itself, because this could easily just plummet through and not even give us an entry at all, which is fine. It's just I wanted to make sure that I at least had a chance on this specific setup. And if there's nothing on this one, I will most likely have to call it, close it for the day. So this is on MNQ. Now, you can already see that gold is already pumping. It's pumping pretty hard. So with it, it's just going to be doing its thing. I'm anticipating that it'll probably go up and hopefully not do a deep pullback, but you never really know. So we just have to wait it out and see what happens. Okay, I will admit that the news is not as volatile as I thought it would have been, but hey, whenever I see a US red folder news event, I treat it like it's earnings, bro, because sometimes it can be so explosive that it can take your stops out. So at least here we have a fighting chance of finding a bullish fair value gap that I can use to target the top of the box, which is where the buy stops are set at. Okay, so right now you'll see that the price of NQ is starting to drop based on that news that was released. So let's take a look at the Forex Factory. So US manufacturing PMI at 48.7 ISM. Okay. So at 48.7 October 2025 manufacturing PMI report. Okay. So economic activity in the manufacturing sector contracted in October for the 8th consecutive month, following a 2-month expansion preceded by 26 months of contraction, says the National Supply Executive in the latest ISM Manufacturing PMI report. The report was issued today by Susan Spence, MBA, Chair of the Institute of Supply Management. So basically, from what I'm hearing, I think NQ is going to be plummeting today. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a chance, right? I'm anticipating that this is a sweep just to keep moving up. However, I could be wrong. Let me take a look at some other technical indicators just to see if I'm on the right side of this. So at least it closed above that 50 EMA on the accumulation hour. We still have the SOAR dots underneath it. So like this is going to be a very dicey play because it's very, very close. But even though it's close, it's worth that shot if I'm right. Obviously, if I'm wrong and we take a hit, I'll probably just close for the day just because I don't want to push my luck today. I just want to focus on trying to see if there's genuinely a good setup. So with that being said, I think I will be targeting about 3 micros today on this setup. We'll see what happens. So I'm over here and I'm going to attach here. Now I'm going to be drawing this box on the side. So this is going to help me to visually see that fair value gap, right? Now, when it's formed, having this box makes it a lot easier for me to know where to put my entry. And what I'm anticipating is hopefully this candle will start to form that bullish fair value gap. And if it does, awesome, we can get a 2.8R to target the top. But if it's wrong, then, it is what it is. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. And hopefully it will be on the winning side. Now, because it's starting to form this, let's go to TradingView, run some numbers to see, what we could make out of this. So let me clear out these drawings. Let me focus on here. Because this is the part where it gets a little tricky because it can easily just slip and go down, right? But there's a fighting chance that it could just have been just a simple liquidity grab of the 9 a.m. just to push up. So you never really know when it comes to this kind of stuff, but you always take a chance. So for me, I feel like it's going to be bullish. This is just more of a liquidity sweep, according to my opinion. Obviously, I could be wrong, right? But I'm just following my system that tells me that if it forms that bullish fair value gap under the conditions you have currently, you need to go long. So because that's what it shows me, that's what I'm doing. But I got to wait until it forms that 5-minute bullish fair value gap because that's like the most important part of my entry confirmation. So gotta keep waiting. Gotta be patient because patience is how we win the game. Okay. Whoa, that's a lot. Let me drop that. Ooh, let me drop that some more. Ah, that's a lot. That's a lot more than I thought I would be spending. Okay. 97. Wow. Okay. I guess it's going to be 1 micro instead. Yeah, that's expensive. So I'm probably going to have to drop that to 1 micro. So now we're just waiting to see what it does. Yeah, because I'm not going to be spending $200 on one setup. Ideally, I need to be around 135.44 just in case this doesn't work out. I don't take a huge hit in terms of a loss. You know, I have to make sure that I'm doing it the right way so that way I can be able to push the trade a little bit more. Now, the problem is if I only have one, and this is where it gets a little tricky, is I still need to, okay, it would be 260. That can still put us over if it forms that bullish fair value gap so we can enter and push up. Now, obviously, I would ideally want to push it a little bit further just to maximize. But if I'm going to do that, I need to also protect this as well. So I'm going to do some numbers, try to see where I could push it about 137.4. That's 1.34 R. So 1.34 R on one contract. If this forms a bullish fair value gap is 137, that would at least, put us at a break even if it worked out. But if it doesn't work out, then there's nothing else we can really do. So 1.34, that would put us as break even for the day. This is the break even zone. The reason why I'm doing this is if this has enough firepower to push up, I definitely want to take advantage of it even on a one micro contract, but we'll see. This is kind of me testing out, break even for the day. And you'll kind of see the logic of what I'm doing if it works out. Obviously, if it goes up and just keeps plummeting, then there's nothing we can do. We would have to adjust to whatever is happening. But if it does give us an entry and opportunity, we definitely want to try to take advantage. We want to take advantage of that. Okay, so we're just going to keep an eye on MNQ, see if it will give us an opportunity. Okay, so it's still pushing down. It's pushing down aggressively. Gonna keep an eye on NQ. See what we're working with. And it seems like it's most likely gonna go down or be very bearish. So based on what I'm seeing, I'm gonna go conservative. If by some miracle this is able to form a bullish fair value gap and close inside of the box, then I'm willing to take a trade. But if it doesn't close inside of this box, then there's no trade. That's the best way I can approach this one. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's just because this is going to get a little dicey. So I have to see. I have to see if my my entry or my analysis on this specific hour was correct. So we'll see. Hopefully it's a sweep of a liquidity grab just to push up, because that would be perfect. But if not, we will have to adjust for sure. So right now, I'm just mainly surveying this hour to see if it will form that bullish fair value gap. If it doesn't form that bullish fair value gap, the odds are this price action will most likely keep plummeting down. So that's why I'm just eyeing to see, just in case it has that slip of where it will form a bullish fair value gap, to at least enter and try. And now it's just a waiting game. We have at least about 40 more minutes to see if it will form that bullish fair value gap. That bullish fair value gap on the 5 minutes specifically. All right, just going to keep an eye on this. Try to see if it'll form that bullish fair value gap. So it definitely seems that there's a lot of selling pressure really pushing price down. So there's a good chance that price is going to keep going down. But just in case, I'm just still having my setup prepped up to go long. But I have to wait for a few things. At least bare minimum, I need to see a 5-minute bullish fair value gap just to see if it's worth taking a chance on this setup. But the way it's going, it's most likely going to be bearish, even based on the news, but we'll see. At least in 1 hour's time, we'll know whether there's going to be a trade for the day or we'll have to close the day at $129.12 in loss. But the good news is, even though it is a loss, it's a small loss that can easily be, I can be able to get back by using a good setup on the CRT. So it's all calculated in there. I just have to see if this would be a valid setup or not. Because the further it veers away from the box, the more unlikely it will be that it will form that bullish CRT. But I have seen NQ in the past. It has pulled off some shenanigans and it has found a way to do that in the past, but we'll see. I think the Bears have won this round. So just in case the NQ trade doesn't come into fruition, I was hoping to see if I could get a trade on this other hour, but the odds are, I don't know if we will have enough time just because I gotta, start to get ready to go to work at some point. So we'll see if we do find an entry on this one, but it's highly unlikely because of how NQ is moving like this. We'll see if it'll affect gold, if gold can be able to power through. But yeah, NQ is, I think it's gone. It's going to the bearish side. So the odds of it closing inside here would be insane. So as you can see, it's very important to wait for news releases first before entering into trade setups, because we waited for that news, well, at least we are not just like being caught up in heavy drawdown. So that's a good news. The only bad news is because it's so bearish, the odds of it closing inside of the accumulation hour are pretty much slim to none. But we do have 30 minutes left. So anything could happen, but I'm going to be more realistically. I think the bearish momentum will continue, for the day. Now, if it does turn around, unfortunately, I'll probably be at work, so I wouldn't be able to trade it. But for right now, we'll see. If it pulls off a miracle and gives us an opportunity, I'll be there to capitalize on it. If not, then we're just going to have to take a hit for the day of minus 129.12. But then we regroup, re-strategize, and enter the new session, which will probably be Asia session, to see if there's any setup. And if not, we'll go to London session. So I always go by the motto, live to trade another day, because by doing that, it allows you to give yourself a fighting chance for your edge to play out. And it's just good risk management. So right now, it's just a game of waiting just to see if NQ gives us the slip that we can take advantage of. If it doesn't, then, we'll definitely have to close the trade. And then I'll probably see you guys either in Asia session or London session. Depends on the setups that appear during those times. So just sit and relax and see what it does. I'm going to keep an eye on gold just to see if it will be able to go up even though NQ is going down to balance it out a little bit. But it seems like that news event is negatively affecting both of them, which is kind of odd. So because of that, I think this NQ setup is kind of toast, because here it is at 10:35. Realistically, it by 10:45, 10:50, 10:55, it has to close here by 55. The odds are that this thing is going to keep plummeting. So I really don't see any bullish setup to go up. So I'm just going to have to, pretty much say this is a no-go. I'll leave it there just in case of that opportunity that could come up. But the odds are that that's just simply not the case. So it will most likely keep going down bearish. So it's better just to look for more bearish setups to keep pushing price down. So we'll see. I just don't think it makes sense to try to enter in a bullish fair value gap at this moment in time when we're so far away. So I'm going to just have to practice the caution here and just simply say it's probably not the best idea to take this trade. And I have a much better chance with, I was hoping to try to trade gold, but it seems like it's going to go bearish as well at some point. So we'll see, man. We'll see what happens, but it looks very unlikely that neither of them will be bullish today. It just seems like it's just a bearish day. So because of that, we're going to have to get more focused. Ooh, this is a rough one. This is a rough one, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Because if this were to form a bullish fair value gap, I'm not gonna lie, I will be kind of tempted to take it, even though I'm not supposed to. It's 10:35. Okay, let me do this. I'm going to draw at least a fair value gap, right? At least I can do that. I'm going to see if somehow, some way, it will leave this fair value gap up. Because if it does, then we might have something. It's so intense. Oh, NQ. Why? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Oh man, this is not exactly the game plan here, but this is going to be a very dicey play. So this is 1040. 10:45. So if I were to take this trade, the odds are it will most likely not close, but there's that crazy chance that it will hit this gap, pump it, and throttle all the way up. So here's what I'm going to do. Because of how crazy that setup would be, I don't want to put a lot of size on it. But I do want to see if it's still worth considering. So I'm going to have to run numbers and see what I can do here. Like, what would be the smart, reasonable thing to do? Just the reasonable thing to do right now. Okay. Okay, if I lost $121.50, $121.50 plus 121.12 or 29.12, that would be 250. And I think I would have to cap it at that point because, that's a lot to take on. I can be able to get a good trade around 250 to cover just in case. So that's option one. Or there is option two. So option two would be literally going like this and pushing for that with the risk of $131. And $131 with, okay, so 131 and it costs about 74 cents. So 74 cents, 0.74 times 2 is 148. 131 is 132.48. So this would be my absolute max if I was willing to wait for that fair value gap to hold and fill, if it can. It's a crazy trade, obviously, an insane trade, by the way, but it would be a crazy 6.72 R trade. Now we'll see if if that is even feasible, but if it does give us an entry, I'll put it right here. I could put it right here, go for the 1 to 3, which would make more sense, to be honest with you. But then that means I would definitely have to put one micro contract. So we'll see what happens on this. I feel that if I'm going to do this, I might as well do it here for the gap fill. And if it goes without me, it goes without me. It's already a crazy trade as it is. So I'm just going to go for buy limit 2 right over here. The main condition is it needs to at least bare minimum fill the gap and push. Now, there's a good chance it will most likely tap and push up. That is a possibility. So I'm just trying to see like what would be the right play here. So because I like gap and fills, I'm going to wait for a gap and fill trade. If it goes without me, that's fine. I can live without it. But if it were to grab that, trade, then obviously it can be a pretty game-changing trade, like, a crazy one. So we'll see. If it goes without me, that's A-okay. That's A-okay. I'll be on my way. So let's see what happens. I can't even believe that we are actually going to have a chance to even close inside. That would be crazy. That would be insane. That would be a crazy trade. I think I probably should just focus on trying to. Yeah, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. I'm just gonna go one micro contract. Put it right there. And then try to see. Because I don't know. Should I move it here or should I let the gap fill enter? Because that's the thing about this. I'm trying to see what would be the right play. Let's see. Come on. Come on. I'll go for it.
Order filled.
Put it at 1. That way I'm at 123. And if it does not go in my way, I'll just have to let it go. And obviously for the target, we would have to try to target the top. So we'll see if it will hold or not. But put the top right there. Try to see. And we'll see what happens, man. This will be the last trade. Because obviously I cannot, keep pushing my luck. And I don't want to keep... What is it? I don't want to burn through like $400 in a day. That's like the maximum amount. So I'm not wanting to do that. I just rather just take this conservatively, targeting the top over here using one micro contract. If it stops me out, I'm out. I'm going to lock up the account and wait until the end of the beginning of Asia session, when I come back from work. So with this one, it's a tricky trade, right? It has formed that bullish fair value gap. And I'm essentially taking what's considered like a high risk trade, because what I'm betting is it will hopefully bounce off this fair value gap to push up, technically close, and then keep pumping. But with what I've seen that it's very bearish, but I've already accepted the risk at 123. So if I were to lose today on this trade, then we would be down 129.49 plus what is this one? 123. And then you have to add in there one micro contract. So 253.23 should be the maximum loss for the day. $253.23. So if that doesn't work out, I gotta let it go, close the trade, and move on. Okay, so this is just us looking and seeing. Technically, the idea is it formed the bullish fair value gap. What we are hoping is that in that gap, that it will hold the price from having to sweep the bottom of that manipulation hour that we have labeled in so far. The thing about it is, obviously, there's not a guarantee. That's why whenever I'm doing these kind of trades, this is definitely more of a higher risk trade. I wouldn't call this a textbook trade at all. However, just kind of based on the setup, I'm feeling that there's a good chance that it will hold and push maybe, but it can be kind of like it's going to be it's going to be an intense trade. I'll put it that way. The odds are that it'll most likely take out that swing low, right, where you see at the 123. However, there's a good chance that that fair value gap that it's formed has enough bullish order to really push price up, hopefully. If it slams through it, it's not a problem. We close the trade, and then we have to save our bullets for the Asia session or London session. But that's the trade that I'm taking, and I choose to live with the results of this trade. I will admit this is more of a FOMO trade, which I hate, but at least I've protected the downside by reducing my contract size from what I originally wanted to use, which was 2 to 1 micro. So at least I did a good job in that area. Now the results, I can't control. I just have to be there just to take the trade and just to do my absolute best job that I can, man. So it is what it is. We just have to wait and see what the results will be. I think that rhymed. Okay, so we'll just have to wait it out. And if it stops us out, it stops us out. It doesn't really matter. We just have to just follow the game plan. I did deviate on this one. I'm not going to lie. I am taking an early entry, but it's just because I feel that it has a really good chance to hold, in my opinion. But anything can happen. So I think I'm just going to wait and see what happens. And if it does start to make some positive progress, then we'll talk about it a little bit more. So we'll just see what happens, okay? Cool beans. I'll be back. I just have to attend to a few things, and then we'll see the results of the trade, okay? All right, I'll see you in a few minutes. See you then. Okay, so it seems like NQ is it looks like it's respecting this fair value gap, but we'll see what happens. It's just the thing about it is, let me make sure that everything is looking good here on the stream. Okay, we're pushing about 2 hours and 57 minutes. So we're still going to keep an eye on this. Obviously, I'm going to have to start getting ready. I'll be occasionally checking up on the stream, try to see if there's any interesting price action that I can get to talk to you guys about. But mainly the hope is that this gap will hold price. If it does, awesome. If it does not, it is what it is. Okay, I'll see you in about 10 minutes, give or take. So we're taking a look at the trade. Now it's been bouncing off this fair value gap for quite some time. So we'll see if it will just fill the gap and push, or it'll be filling the gap just to push the price downward. So now it's just a waiting game and just seeing if this was the right play. Now, if not, it will end up as a loss for the day. But if it's good, then hey, it could be a big win. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. So right now, let me put it on full screen so you can see everything. So now we're just going to wait for price to do its thing. Either it will fill the gap and hold to push upward, or it will just fill the gap and take out this swing low right over here. So it all depends on what it wants to do. Now as you can see, I should have probably waited for the gap fill, but either way, this trade is most likely going to stop me out. And if that's the case, that's fine. The thing about it is next time, what I can improve from this is I got to stick to my trading plan. In my original trading plan, this would have been okay if this price action up here would have been inside of this box, right? But I simply allowed the other loss that I took to kind of justify me breaking a good chunk of the rules that are needed for my standard CRT setup, because this is no longer a CRT. This is more of a inverse fair value gap that I'm trying to use in order to take out the high from the 9 o'clock hour. So here's the thing. Whatever happens, I have fully accepted the consequences of the trade. But what I'm going to have to work on is I'm just going to have to be more patient with my setups. And wait for that A+ trade. So regardless of this isn't an A+ setup. I wish I probably should have just waited until the other one, regardless of whether it hits here or takes out here. It's still not an A+ setup, and I'm trying to make sure that whenever I'm doing my trades, I'm choosing the best A+ setup that I can possibly push for. Now, the good news that I've done consistently is I'm very good at making sure that I'm using good risk management for each trade that I'm taking. So that part I'm proud of. But in this case, honestly, I should have just waited until probably the Asia session, right? To wait until Asia session and see if it would give us more textbook examples. So hopefully this inverse fair value gap truly holds. But still, I personally want to make sure that next time, wait until I get a textbook setup. Even though the CL trade was a textbook setup that failed, that to me is still more of at least a B setup because it follows all the technical rules. But with this one, I'm violating a lot of rules just to enter this trade, which I don't like. So that's something I'm just going to keep an eye on and monitor in the next few days. But that's pretty much it. It's 10:33 right now. Now, obviously, I have to get ready to go to work. So we're going to have to close the stream. Now, you might be wondering, okay, what about this trade? Well, the good news is in the link in the description, you will see my Topstep account. You will be able to see this account final outcome, whether it's going to be a win or a loss. You'll be able to see it on the account below. And then when I come back on stream, which will probably be Asia session or London session, then we can kind of go over this trade, explain the pros and the cons of the trade. And hopefully during that time, we can find a good CRT textbook setup that I can take advantage of. Because this one is something completely different now. It's a inverse fair value gap that we're hoping that will hold to take out the top. So it's a little bit completely different from my standard CRT setup. So we'll see what happens. But either way, it is time for me to end stream. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. Peace.